Chosen one, heaven did not watch you from a distance for 5,000 years. It held its breath. I know how that sounds sitting in the life you are actually living right now. The weight behind your eyes, the kind of tiredness that sleep does not fix, the quiet question that follows you into every morning. Am I enough? Am I on time? Did I miss something I was supposed to catch? You did not miss it. You are it. For every year you felt invisible, something across a dimension you cannot see was holding space and saying, "Not yet." Hold it. They are being prepared. 5,000 years of that. Civilizations rising and dissolving. Prayers sent into skies that looked empty. Prophets speaking toward a time that was not theirs. All of it moving toward one specific arrival. Yours. You were not born into this era by coincidence. You were the reason this era reached this point. And here is the first thing I need you to receive before we go any further. The thing you have always called your ordinariness. That is not what it is. That is the cover. The original design has been underneath it your entire life. The depth of knowing. The gift you have felt, but never been able to fully name. It was never meant to lie dormant. Today, we take the cover off. Before we go any further into this message, I want you to know what you are going to walk away with if you stay all the way to the end. By the time this is over, you will understand why every season that felt like silence was never punishment and what it was actually building in you. You will have a name for the specific kind of tiredness you have been carrying and why it is a sign, not a flaw. You will receive the largest revelation of this entire message, one that reframes every year of your life you thought was wasted. And you will walk away with two simple practices that chosen ones use to operate from their original design instead of the version the world tried to make them become. Stay all the way through. What comes at the end is the part that changes how you carry yourself going forward. Everything in the next several minutes is offered to you freely, with no conditions. But if at any point your spirit tells you there is something more you need, you will find it in the description and the pinned comment below. Only if you feel led. Right now, I want to take you somewhere. Not far, only 5,000 years back. I want you to picture a city of stone, ancient streets, the smell of incense drifting across open courtyards, the sound of sandals on worn rock, and the low murmur of a crowd that has moved through this same gate for generations. And standing quietly near the wall of the temple, there is an old man. He is not rushing. He is not anxious. He has been coming to this place every single day for so long that the other people here barely notice him anymore. But if you watched him closely, you would see something in the way he stands. Not the posture of someone waiting for something to happen. The posture of someone who knows that it will. His name is Simeon. For 5,000 years of recorded human history, a thread had been running forward. Generation after generation of people who prayed, who built, who hoped, who reached towards something they could not fully name, but could not stop reaching for. Simeon was alive at the convergence of all of that. And then, one ordinary morning, a young mother walked through the gate carrying her infant. The crowd barely looked up. Simeon looked up. He crossed the courtyard. He held out his arms. And when he held the child, he said the words that had been building in his chest his entire life. Now, I can let you go in peace. Not grief, not relief. The sound of a long wait, finally meeting the one it was always waiting for. And here is what I need you to understand. Simeon was the witness. He was the one who recognized the arrival. But you are not the witness in this story. You are the arrival. And I say that not as encouragement. I say it because of something that ancient Hebrew records carry that most translations miss entirely. The word they used for waiting. The word for what Simeon did, for what heaven does across thousands of years. In Hebrew, the word is qavhh, and the root of that word does not mean to sit and watch and hope. It means to twist, to bind, to wrap yourself so completely around a promise that you and the promise become inseparable. Isaiah used this word when he wrote, Those who quava upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Heaven did not watch you from a distance for 5,000 years. Heaven bound itself to you. That anticipation was not casual, it was covenantal. The kind of commitment that does not stop even when the years stretch on, even when the evidence is invisible, even when the waiting looks, from the outside, like absolutely nothing is happening. Something was always happening. And it was always happening because of you. Now, before I tell you what this means for how you live, I need to ask you something directly. Are you the one we have been describing? Because there are specific signs that show up in people who carry this kind of appointment. And I want to name them for you, because most people who carry these signs have never had anyone put words to what they are experiencing. The first one is a specific kind of fatigue, not the kind that comes from overwork or poor sleep, though those may be present too. This is a tiredness that lives in the bones. You wake up already carrying weight. You move through your day. You do what needs to be done, but underneath it, something is being consumed from the inside. This is not a deficiency. This is not your brokenness. This is your formation, drawing on your reserves. Your soul is in preparation mode, and preparation costs energy. The second one is the waking. If you find yourself coming awake between 3 and 4 in the morning, not from a bad dream, not from any clear reason, just awake in the dark and still, this is not insomnia. This is not a malfunction. Those are the hours when the distance between the seen and the unseen gets thinner. Your spirit is being trained to hear in the quiet before the world fills up with noise. The third one is the changing of what you can tolerate. Things that used to feel comfortable now feel suffocating. Environments you once navigated easily now drain you within minutes. People who used to feel like home now feel like a language you have slowly drifted away from. This is not you becoming difficult. This is not your confusion. This is you becoming aligned. What no longer feeds you is leaving, because it was never built for where you are going. The fourth one is the restlessness, not anxiety, though it can feel similar. A creative pull toward building something, creating something, leaving something behind, but without a name or direction yet. That restlessness is not a problem to fix. It is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is your assignment trying to find the surface. It has been knocking from the inside for a long time. The fifth one is the timing. The moments that cannot be fully explained, the right word from the right person at exactly the right moment. The thought that arrives the day before it becomes relevant. The sense of having been somewhere before you arrived. You notice these things because you are wired to notice them. This is not superstition. This is not your imagination running away with you. This is calibration. If 3 or more of these describe the last several months of your life, you are not in a breakdown. You are in a breakthrough season. You simply did not have a name for it until today. Now I know what you want. You want me to tell you what to do with all of this, what it means, where it goes. I will get there. But there is something I need to show you first, because it changes how you receive everything that follows. Let me pause here for just a moment. You have been with this message for about 7 or 8 minutes now. I want to acknowledge that. Something in you kept this playing. Something did not let you close it and move on. Before we go any deeper, I want you to take one real breath, not a quick one, a slow one. Draw it in, hold it for just a second, and let it go. Nothing to receive in this moment, nothing to figure out. Just breathe. Good. What comes next is the part that begins to change how you see the silent seasons of your life. So let us keep going. Here is what most people miss about the season you have been in. The world saw the outside of it. The world saw you being quiet, being still, being passed over, overlooked, simply unseen. And the world made a quiet judgment. Nothing is happening here. But that was never what was happening. Think about a woman named Anna. She was a prophetess who spent 84 years inside the walls of the temple in Jerusalem, praying, watching, waiting. She did not leave. She did not assume the waiting was punishment. She did not demand an explanation for why it was taking so long. She stayed faithful to the posture. And then, the moment arrived. Not before she was ready, not after, exactly when it was meant to. And she was the first one to open her mouth and speak what she was witnessing out loud. 84 years of preparation for a moment that lasted less than a minute, and not one single day of those 84 years was wasted. There are three things that were actually happening in your hidden seasons. The first is character formation. There are things that cannot be learned on a visible stage. Integrity under pressure, faithfulness when no one is watching, the ability to hold a calling without turning it into a performance. Those things are only formed in private. And the longer the private season, the deeper the formation. The second is capacity expansion. A container has to be built large enough before it can hold what is being prepared for it. If you had received the full weight of your assignment before your capacity was ready for it, it would not have empowered you. It would have overwhelmed you. The hidden years were not empty. They were expanding the container. The third is identity clearing. Some of what had to leave your life, some of the relationships that ended, some of the versions of yourself that dissolved, those were not losses. They were removals. The false identity had to come off before the real one could be worn. And that process is not comfortable, but it is necessary. And I hear something for you in the quiet of this moment. I was not absent from you in those silent years. I was the silence itself. I was in every moment you called empty, and nothing, not one difficult season, was ever wasted. Let me show you what was actually happening while the world was making its quiet judgment about your life. What the world called hidden, heaven called protected. What the world called silence, heaven called containment. What the world called overlooked, heaven called reserved. What the world called delay, heaven called precision, adjusting the timing to the exact degree that the assignment required. And what the world called ordinary, heaven called cover. The cover for something so specific, so carefully formed, that premature exposure would have damaged it before it was ready. You were never behind. You were never forgotten. You were never late. You were moving on a timeline that no human calendar was designed to measure. Let me tell you about someone who sat in exactly what you have been sitting in. A woman I want you to think about spent years feeling invisible. She was gifted. She was qualified. She showed up, she prepared, she was ready. And again, the doors did not open. She began to wonder, quietly, whether the calling she had felt her entire life was something she had imagined. And then she received an understanding, not a guarantee, not a promise that the doors would open on her schedule, just a clear understanding of what the season was actually for. She stopped fighting the hidden season and started receiving what the hidden season was designed to give her. Within several months, every door that had been sealed began to shift. I am not giving you a timeline or a formula. What worked in her story may look entirely different in yours. What I am saying is that she did one thing differently. She stopped treating the hidden season as evidence of abandonment, and she started receiving it as evidence of preparation. That one shift changed everything. And that brings me to the question I know you are holding underneath all of this. Why you? Of all the people alive on this earth right now, why was this specific appointment placed inside you? I already hear the answer rising in you. And it sounds something like this. This sounds beautiful, but it is not really for me. I know what I have done. I know where I have failed. I know the things I still carry that I am not proud of. And something that waited 5,000 years deserves better than what I have been. I want to sit with that for a moment, because that thought presents itself as humility, but it is not humility. Real humility does not disqualify itself from the calling. Real humility receives the calling without pretending to deserve it, and without deciding it does not apply. The 5,000-year wait was not waiting for someone perfect. It was not waiting for someone with a clean record and a life without regret. It was waiting for someone who would say yes. exactly as they are, exactly where they are, in exactly this moment. That is you, chosen one, even now, especially now. And here, I want to pause for just one moment, because what I just described about what was placed inside you at birth is not only spiritual language. Science has a name for it. The capacity for deep clarity, for pattern recognition, for what feels like knowing something before you can fully explain how you know it. Neuroscientists have measured this state. They call it the gamma frequency. And what the research shows is that every human being is born with access to this state. It is not gifted to some and withheld from others. It is built in, but somewhere between early childhood and adulthood, the world begins to suppress it. The chronic noise, the pressure to perform, the stress that never fully lifts. By the time most people reach adulthood, the gamma frequency has been pushed so far below the surface that they spend their lives operating at a fraction of the capacity they were born with. There is a tool called the Genius Song, a 7-minute audio track built on brain entrainment science that works specifically to restore access to that original frequency, not adding something foreign, returning what was always there. I will come back to this in full, because there is more you need to understand about it. If your spirit is already resonating, you will find the information in the pinned comment and the description below. But let us keep going, because the most important revelation is still ahead. The price of being the first in 5,000 years is not what most people expect. It is not a stage and a crowd who finally understands you. In the next part, I am going to show you exactly what it costs, what it builds, and why the largest truth I have been holding until the end is the one that will finally explain every year of your life you thought had no purpose. Stay with me. The word first is not as comfortable as it sounds. When most people imagine being first, they imagine recognition, a stage, arriving somewhere, and finally being understood by everyone who spent years misunderstanding them. But being first actually means something very different. Being first means there is no road in front of you. The path does not exist until you walk it into existence. Let me show you what that looks like through someone whose story you may already know. Joseph was given a vision of his destiny as a young man, a clear and unmistakable picture of who he was called to be and what he would one day carry. And then, within days of receiving that vision, he was stripped and sold into slavery by the very people he had been closest to his entire life. He spent years in Egypt, first as a servant in a foreign household, then in a prison cell he had done nothing to deserve. 13 years between the promise and the position. And here is what I want you to understand about those 13 years. The cup he was eventually asked to carry, holding the food supply for entire civilizations in a time of famine, saving nations when every other resource had failed. That cup could not be held by someone who had never learned what powerlessness feels like and then discovered it is not the end of the story. The wilderness was not a detour in the divine plan. The wilderness was the divine plan. Every person who has ever been called to carry something significant has walked through their own version of that wilderness before the assignment fully landed. Your wilderness was no different. But I want to speak now about something that comes with the season you are standing in right now. Not the one behind you, the one you are in. Because there is a specific guilt that settles in when you begin to grow beyond the container that used to hold you. You feel it when you pull back from relationships that no longer seem to be moving in the same direction as your life. You feel it when you are less available than you used to be. When you cannot explain to the people who knew the earlier version of you why you have changed. When someone reaches for you and you cannot fully show up the way they expect. That guilt presents itself as evidence that you are being selfish. That distance is the same thing as betrayal. That becoming is the same thing as leaving people behind. I want to say something clearly. The chosen one who shrinks back to ease other people's discomfort, who compresses themselves into a smaller shape just so no one has to adjust, does not only betray themselves, they betray every person who is waiting further down the line for what that growth was building. So hear this. You are allowed to outgrow. You are allowed to change without producing an explanation that satisfies everyone who remembers who you used to be. You are allowed to protect what is being built in you, even when that protection costs you closeness with people you genuinely love. And you do not owe anyone an apology for becoming who you were always being made to be. Before I give you the largest revelation I have been holding for the end of this message, and I will give it to you completely, there is one final layer I need to reveal first, because this is the layer that makes everything else fall into place. Once you receive it, the question of why heaven waited 5,000 years for you specifically will be fully answered. Stay with me. Before we go there, let me take just 90 seconds and give you a clear picture of what you have already received today. You came here carrying a question you did not quite have words for. Here is the answer. You were not accidentally placed in this era. The 5,000-year thread of human history, the prayers, the reaching, the forward-leaning hope of countless generations was moving toward a specific arrival, yours. The timing of your birth was not coincidence, it was convergence. What this means practically, the loneliness was not punishment, the hiddenness was not failure. The seasons that looked empty from the outside were never empty, they were formation. And formation has a completion point. You are standing at that point. And who is this for? If you have been feeling the weight of something larger than your daily life can contain, if something in you keeps saying not yet but soon, if the invisible things in your life have always felt more real to you than the visible ones, this is for you. Not for everyone watching, for you. Now let me show you something specific. Something that bridges what we have been speaking about with what science has discovered about what was placed inside you at birth. In a lab at MIT and Princeton, researchers mapped something that quietly changed the conversation about human capacity. They found that the human brain at birth operates in a frequency range neuroscientists now call the gamma state. This is the state linked to heightened pattern recognition, deep clarity, the sense of knowing something before you can fully explain how you know it. The flow that every person who has ever done something the world called impossible has described operating from. The gamma state is not a gift given to some and withheld from others. It is standard equipment. It is the factory setting. But somewhere between early childhood and adulthood, the world suppresses it. The pressure of systems built for conformity, the chronic low-grade stress of modern life, the noise that never fully quiets. By the time most people reach adulthood, the gamma frequency has been pushed so far below the surface that they spend their lives operating at a fraction of the capacity they were born with. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake spent 34 years documenting the patterns of this suppression across thousands of cases. He and his research teams, drawing from findings at institutions including MIT, Princeton, and Harvard, identified this pattern and called it the decline effect. Now think about what I have been describing today. Heaven placed something in you at birth, a specific design, a specific capacity, a frequency that was yours before the world had a chance to tell you who to be. The decline effect is the mechanism by which that original frequency was turned down, not removed, turned down. There is a tool developed from Dr. Lake's research called the Genius Song. It is a 7-minute audio track built on brain entrainment technology. What it does at its core is retrain the brain to access the gamma frequency again, not by adding something foreign, by returning the brain to what it was always designed to do. The results that have come back from the 18,366 people who have now used this tool tell a consistent story. The refund rate sits at under 4%. In an industry where most products of this kind see returns between 15 and 25%, under 4% means something significant. It means that when people actually use this, they overwhelmingly choose to keep it. One man who had spent years feeling like his mind was operating below its natural level sharp in glimpses, but unable to sustain the clarity consistently, said that after 3 weeks, it was not that he became a different person. It was that he finally started feeling like the person he had always suspected he was underneath. That is what the Genius Song is designed to restore. Not to create something new in you, to return what was always there. Let me be honest with you. No tool does the work for you. This is not a shortcut. What it is the kind of support that allows the preparation you have already been through, the formation of the hidden years, to operate at the frequency it was designed for. I do not ask you to take my word for it. The product carries a complete money-back guarantee, 90 days. No restrictions on how many times you use it before you decide. If you reach the end of that window and it has not been worth the investment to you, every dollar comes back, no questions asked. The price for those watching this message is $39. The standard price is $49, and with your purchase, 4 additional resources come to you at no extra cost. An audio track calibrated specifically for children before the decline effect takes hold, so that the genius frequency in the next generation is protected before the world can suppress it, valued at $19. The original classic book that the film The Secret drew its core ideas from, a deeper and more practical look at the principles most people only know from the surface, valued at $20. A 22-minute guided visualization designed to walk you through 4 areas of your life, from purpose to relationships to financial clarity to inner peace, valued at $29. And a 4th resource that completes a package with a combined value of well over $100. You receive all of that for $39. The season you are entering does not pause while you deliberate. Every day you operate below your designed frequency is a day of limitation that does not have to be there. The clarity you are meant to carry, the work you are being prepared for, all of it functions better when the original frequency is restored. If your spirit says yes, move when it says yes. The moment of resonance has a window. One more thing I want to say clearly. The Genius Song is only available through the link in the pinned comment and the description below this video. There are products in the market that reference similar technology. They are not the same. What Dr. Lake developed over decades of research is specific in its calibration, and the authentic version is only accessible through the link below. Do not accept a substitute for the real thing. The Genius Song. It is in the pinned comment below. Investigate it only if your spirit says this is the right next step for you. And if it does, do not wait. Now let me tell you what has actually been happening across all of it. Across every recognition sign, across every hidden season, across every moment of feeling like the world had no category for you. Revelation 1 showed you that you were expected, not hoped for, not accidentally arrived. Expected. Bound to, the way that ancient Hebrew word describes, covenantally, inseparably, for 5,000 years. Revelation 2 showed you that every season that looked like nothing was full of something, full of preparation, full of formation, full of activity that the visible world had no instruments to measure. And Revelation 3 showed you that being first does not mean being easy. It means walking without a road and having the road appear beneath your feet. But here is what all 3 of those revelations were pointing toward, the thing underneath all of them, the entire time. Heaven was not waiting because it was patient. Heaven was waiting because you were not here yet. The equation was incomplete without you. And the moment you took your first breath, the moment you arrived in this world, the equation changed. Not for everyone else, for everything. You have spent your life wondering when heaven would finally show up for you. But that is not the story the ancient records tell. The story they tell is this. You were the one heaven was waiting to show up. Every prayer that was lifted and seemed to land nowhere, the answer was you. Every generation that held hope forward into a future they could not see, you were what they were holding it toward. Every person who lived and pointed toward a time that was not their time. You are the time they were speaking about. You were the arrival. You were always the arrival. And now I want to say clearly what that means for how you see the years you thought were wasted. What felt like rejection was redirection towards something that the celebrated and the comfortable could never have been equipped to carry. What felt like silence was containment, a frequency so specific that noise would have damaged it before it was ready to be released. What felt like being overlooked was being kept for a season that required exactly what the hidden years built in you. And what felt like ordinary, the quiet days, the unremarkable moments, the years with no visible proof of progress, that was always the cover. And the original design was always underneath. And right here, at the center of everything I have been moving toward today, I hear the ancient voice speaking directly to you. I was not slow. I was not absent from you. I was binding myself to you, the way a river binds itself to the sea from before your first breath. The 5,000 years was not the weight of waiting. It was the depth of love that held the space for you. And you, chosen one, were worth every year of it. So let me say what you are. You are the answer to what was prayed for. You carry what generations could not carry alone. You are not behind. You arrived exactly when the design required. And you are not done becoming who you were born to be, not even close. Let me give you two things to carry into the days ahead. Not complex practices, simple postures. The first is this: every morning, before the noise of the day fills the space, even for just 3 minutes, let yourself hold one thought. I was expected. I was prepared. I am on time. Not as positive thinking, as orientation, a compass direction before you start moving. The second is this: when you feel the restlessness rise, that creative pull with no clear name yet, instead of trying to quiet it, ask it a question out loud or in your mind. What is trying to surface right now? And then notice the first answer that comes. Not the best answer, the first one. Your assignment lives closer to the surface than you think. These are not performance tools. They are posture tools. And ordinary hours are where extraordinary lives are actually built. Now, I want you to do something with me. You do not need to move. You do not need to do anything except let what I am about to describe become real in your mind for a few moments. Picture yourself before, not as you are now, but before your name, before this body, before this life. Just the essence of what you are, not yet arrived, not yet here. And somewhere in the ancient world, thousands of years ago, in a city of stone, in a field, in a room lit by the soft glow of oil lamps, there is a person living their ordinary day. And in the middle of that ordinary day, they pause, they look up, and they feel something they have no language for. A reaching forward, a longing towards something they cannot see. A prayer without words that says, something is coming. Someone is coming. I do not know their name. I do not know their face. But I am holding space for them. Right now, with everything I have. That reaching across 5,000 years was aimed at you. Now come back. Come back to the breath in your lungs, to where you are right now, to this day, to this life, to the person you have become through every season you once called wasted. You are the thing they were reaching toward, and you have arrived. Take one slow breath and let that land. You have stayed with this for a long time today. I do not take that lightly. Something in you would not let you close it. Something kept you here through the parts that were difficult to receive, through the places that asked you to believe something larger about yourself than you have been used to believing. Honor that something. It knows what you need better than your doubt does. Let me take a moment here and witness what just happened. A chosen one who has been carrying more than they were ever given credit for, who walked through seasons with no visible road, who held on when every external signal said there was nothing to hold on to, received something today. A name for what the silent years actually were. A frame for why the waiting was never abandonment. That is not a small thing. Before you go anywhere, I want you to do something very simple. Picture every label the world placed on you that was never true. Picture them like pieces of paper you have been carrying for years in your hands. Too slow, too quiet, not quite right, too late, not enough, behind, ordinary. Let them all rest in your open hands for just one moment. And now, release them. Open your hands and let them fall, because you were never those things. Not one of them was ever true. They were the cover, and the original design was always underneath. And now you know what it is. And here, at the close of this, I hear the voice that has known you since before your name was given speaking directly to you. You are chosen. You were sent. You arrived on time. The 5,000 years are over. The waiting is done. The era that needed you has now begun. And now you rise. Chosen, sent, on time. That is not encouragement. That is your commissioning. Let it land. Do not rush out of this. Sit in it for 60 seconds. Not scrolling, not moving to the next thing. Just let what you have received settle into the part of you that was there before the world started telling you who to be. 60 seconds. And then go. The 5,000 years of waiting are behind you, chosen one. Everything that comes next is yours. If something moved in you during that closing, if something in your chest recognized what was just spoken over you, type the words "I am ready" in the comments below. Let that be the seal you place on this day. And if someone came to mind while you were listening today, someone who has been unusually quiet lately, who has been pulling back from everything without quite knowing why, who has been carrying something they cannot explain to the people around them, share this with them. They may not know yet what they are waiting for, but you know enough now to know they need to hear this. That sharing is part of your assignment too. Before you leave, gently press the like button. Not for me. So this message can find the person who needs it tonight. Someone out there is sitting in the quiet right now, wondering if their silence means they were forgotten. Let your like be the signal that sends this toward them. And if this found you at the right moment, if you want to stay connected for what comes next, more words are being prepared for the seasons ahead. Stay with us so they can find you when you need them most.